about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So February is American Heart Month, and today is the National Wear Red Day. So you're going to see a lot of people wearing red. Doesn't have to do with Valentine's Day. It has to do with their hearts. And sadly, about 800,000 people get heart attacks yearly in America. It is still the number one killer globally, the number one killer in America. And it is frightening when you listen to some of these statistics. And so we want to raise awareness today, which is why we're wearing red. So globally, heart disease, leading cause of death, 18 million annual deaths. In America, 805,000 people are going to have a heart attack this year. 12% may die from it, possibly more. And they say that every 40 seconds, somebody in America is having a heart attack. So already since we've been talking, at least 3-4 people have had a heart attack. Scary, scary stuff. And our risk is compounding based on our genetics, based on our weight, based on our activity and our medical issues. And more than half of Americans have no idea that they are walking around with the ticking time bomb. And I don't want to scare you all, but in my family, my father bragged about how healthy he was. And he was healthy until the day he died. He didn't know he was walking around with clogged arteries. I told him he probably was. He had mild diabetes, mild high cholesterol, but did not want to get his heart checked. And unfortunately, he had a widowmaker. The left anterior descending artery, we presume, had a major blockage or plaque break. You know, when people get a heart attack, they think that they're clogging 70, 80, 90%, and they have some time until they get to 100%. Oftentimes with a heart attack, you have plaquing that break off. When they break off, it irritates the lining of the intima, the lining of the vessel. And then that immediately causes an inflammatory reaction. It clots. And when that happens, it's sudden. And you could drop of a heart attack, go into cardiac arrest. There's so many things that could contribute to heart disease. Not only heart attacks, there could be arrhythmias. You could also have hyperlipidemia, and you could have arteriosclerotic disease where you have plaquing. That also increases your risk of stroke. And so when we look at our risk factors for our heart and brain health, they're pretty similar. All right. If you are a male over 40, a female over 50, and honestly, I think they might be even changing those because we're seeing heart attacks, happen younger and younger. But males over 40, females over 50, for those of us, we already have one cardiac risk factor. If you have high blood pressure, you have another. If you have high cholesterol, you have another. If you have diabetes, you have another. If you smoke, there's another. If you drink excessive alcohol, if you are sedentary and you don't move, if you're always doing a sit-down job, if you're obese, if you're short stature, that could be a risk factor as well. We've seen studies looking at early balding, like in your 20s, early graying. We talk about Frank sign, which is a little diagonal ear crease. The science is mixed on that, but we see time and time again, sometimes that could be a sign that you might have cardiovascular disease. National Wear Red Month, Wear Red Day, also highlights how women can have different symptoms of heart disease than men. And as a physician who worked in the ER, urgent care, I'm telling you right now, I had women come in thinking they had a UTI and it was a heart attack. Or somebody having tooth pain and it ended up being a heart attack. So the classic symptoms of heart disease is pressure on the chest, like an elephant sitting on it, difficulty breathing, dizziness, pain in the left arm or numbness or tingling in the left arm. But symptoms of heart disease could be very broad. Not only could you have chest pain and difficulty breathing and dizziness, but you could feel lightheaded. You could feel foggy. You could have fatigue. You could be nauseated. You could be vomiting. You could have frequent hiccups, frequent burping could be a sign of heart disease. I know a lot of you guys have reflux, but if you're burping and that burping doesn't stop, you need to be checked for a heart attack. I can't tell you how many patients I had where they're like, yeah, my wife, says I was burping all night long. I'm like, let's check your heart. It was a heart attack. And so if you are sweaty and you all of a sudden kind of feel sweaty or you feel clammy, yeah, it could be flu, it could be COVID, but it could be your heart. And we have such amazing, easy tools to check your heart. We could do an EKG where we put little stickers and electrodes to help read the electricity. It's a fantastic science where your heart is supposed to have a pretty predictable pattern of emitting electricity. And when we see it vary, we know that's because that heart muscle is damaged or that heart muscle is not getting the oxygen it needs. We have ways to stress your heart, like treadmills and Cardiolite. We have ways to look at the arteries and how clogged they are with angiograms. We have ultrasounds. We have CAT scans. You need to talk to your medical provider about your risk factors and to get yourself checked. If you have diabetes, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, any one of those, you need to be checked for heart disease. If you have erectile dysfunction, get yourself checked for heart disease. Every 40 seconds, somebody's having a heart attack. Got to figure out where all these numbers are coming from. And I don't want to scare you, but if you have low blood flow down below, you probably have low blood flow up here. Males over 40, female over 50. I know they change it to males over 45, females over 55. They say menopausal women have less protection than they did when they were younger. But I don't care how old you are. If you have any of those risk factors, diabetes, high blood pressure, if there's a family history of heart disease, if you had a heart issue, if you have an abnormal heart rhythm, you need to get yourself checked out. Now, a lot of people say, oh, yeah, I get chest pain, but it's because of panic attacks. So it's my anxiety. So when I get chest pain, it's my anxiety. I don't have to do anything. That's wrong. I told you guys earlier last year that the chest pain you're having with a panic attack could still be cardiac in nature. We know that stress hurts the heart. So don't ignore that either. Any chest pain, get yourself checked out. It's American Heart Month and it's National Wear Red Day. 1-877-DOC-Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now to answer your questions for free. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell our listeners who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me join you to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now and find out how much your case is potentially worth. Call 800-710-5100.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. If you think you deserve compensation, call now to find out how much you qualify for. 800-710-5100.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to totalwellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. totalwellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dali, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. Also, if ever you miss a show, go to my website at drdaliah.com, DRDALIAH.com, and you could be able to listen online as well. So that should be able to help get you guys caught up. Okay, so here we go. Let me see. We got the long-awaited Super Bowl picks. All right, so, I love Super Bowl. What it is, it's Super Bowl 59, right? We got the L, we got the I, we got the X. So for Roman numerals, it's amazing. Nobody really uses Roman numerals except for Super Bowl. I'm glad Super Bowl does this because remember we had to learn about Roman numerals? The V was the 5, the X was the 10, but depending on where you put the I, if you put the I after the X, it's 11. If you put the I before the X, it's 9. I'm glad Super Bowl uses Roman numerals because it gets our act together to keep that skill up. So even though it looks like licks, Super Bowl licks, it is Super Bowl 59. Big day between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Philadelphia Eagles. And I know a lot of you want to go hit the sports book to put your bets down on who you think are going to win. And thank you. I'm very flattered that you wait for my predictions. I'm probably at about 89 to 90%. We had a little bit of a miss last year. But this year, I think we have the numbers good. Now, my predictions as a doctor are medical. I use the NFL injury report to figure out who wins the Super Bowl. And I got to tell you, we have called it. We called it with the Ravens. We called it with the Saints in 2010. We've called it with the Patriots. We've called it with the Chiefs. We've called it with, we've been calling it most years. I know there was a little bit of a miss last year, and I'm going to own up to it. But I got to admit, the way I do this, I think it's pretty cool. Now, I am not encouraging anybody to put bets. I understand many of you do, and you do wait for mine. And I also need to apologize. I wrote this out yesterday, and for some reason, my article went back, reverted to the old article. And so I don't understand where I had all my statistics and all my things laid out. So I'm going to republish. But for those of you who saw 49er information in it, I don't know what the hell happened, but I worked on it last night a lot. And for some reason, the wrong article went out there. So, going to have to figure out what's happening with that. So I look at the NFL injury report and I look at the ESPN injury report when I make my picks. And I think what happens medically is very, very important. Now, some of you might go, well, that's easy, Dr. Daliah. I am looking at the Eagles listing. They have a lot more injuries than the Chiefs. I think the Eagles had at least 10 of their players reporting an injury, whether they had full participation or limited participation, whereas the Chiefs had 2 or 3 injuries. So some people say, well, there you go. That's easy. It's going to be the Chiefs. No. And by the way, you got to really be up on the injury report because today there's added. So it does. I don't think it works that way. Just because there's more injured players doesn't necessarily mean, because remember, your Super Bowl pick, that's a big one. Okay, you need to have a little bit more substance before just randomly saying, well, it's going to be the Chiefs. And mind you, a lot of people say, well, it's going to be the Chiefs. I think the spread is 1.5. Negative 1.5 for the Chiefs. I think the over-under is 48.5. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I do think it's going to be a high-scoring game, but that's not what this is for. This is for just who's going to win. So you look at the injury report. Yes, you could look at the numbers of injuries, but what are the injuries? All right, so how I look at it is somebody could hurt a thumb, somebody could hurt a foot. To me, one of the most devastating injuries in football, okay, is a groin injury. You see football players, they hurt their thumb, they hurt their foot, they're limping. The players are like, we're good. But if you watch the players' expressions, when somebody gets a groin injury, they stop and go, whoa, what am I doing here? Is it really worth the millions? And so if somebody sustains a groin injury, I have noticed that time and time again, that's the team that loses the Super Bowl. Now, what has complicated matters is the NFL injury report is not going into anybody's groin as deeply as I think needs to be. And there's a chance that nobody has a groin injury. Well, if nobody has a groin injury, whew, that's good. Okay, well, then what other injury is significant? Well, in medicine, obviously, a concussion. A concussion is huge. So concussion is up there. It comes next after groin. Not in medicine. Concussions, head injuries are worse. But in football, people get concussed. If you notice, the football players are more worried about the groin. So, I'm just saying. So I relate it as groin comes first, head concussion, undisclosed. You'll see undisclosed illnesses. Is undisclosed illness something that they want to keep private? Is it syphilis? Is it COVID? Is it depression? Is it anxiety? So undisclosed comes next. Then we rank hip, glute, back, quad, hamstring, eye, abdomen, chest, knee, shoulder, calf, arm, ankle, foot, wrist, hand, finger, and tippy toe. A toe injury, even though you would think that would be very significant in terms of running, based on my medical calculations for Super Bowl winners, the toe weighs less than, obviously, the groin and other issues. So when you look at the NFL injury report, all right, for the Kansas City Chiefs, you have Sky Moore, who hurt his abdomen. Now, I know a lot of you are like, abdomen is close to groin, and abdominal injuries are severe. But, well, we'll see. Rashee Rice, I think, has a knee injury. So that's pretty significant. And then we don't really have much else from this month's NFL injury report. When you look at ESPN's injury report for the Eagles, you have Nick Gates, but we don't know what he has. Kenneth Gainwell had a concussion. All right, so that's kind of high up, right? Devontae Smith, hamstring. Brandon Graham, triceps. CJ Uzoma, abdomen. Brian Covey, neck. So those, we're starting to see a lot more injuries. So when you start to kind of look at those, and I got to tell you, yeah, they're when you rate them, they're looking a lot more severe than what Chiefs have. And honestly, yeah, the Chiefs do have less. So that's how the fewer injuries do come into play. Not because you're doing the counting game, but you're looking at the number of injuries. And if there's a higher chance for a groin or concussion injury, there's a higher chance for that team to lose. But here's the thing. You have a lot of individuals say, Dr. Daliah, no. What about the color of the uniforms? Okay, I think, and you know what? The color of the uniforms are important. Especially in medicine, colors are important. So yes, I do look at the colors of the uniform. So in medicine, black, blue, green, yellow are colors that fare worse than white, red, and brown. Black may happen with necrosis. Blue may happen with hypoxia, green mucus, yellow gonorrhea, hepatitis. White and red are fairly routine. You got the bones, you got the blood. Silver and purple you don't really see, except for like maybe hair colors. So the color scale from most problematic to least is black, blue, yellow, then green, then orange, then purple, silver, white, and red. Somebody wearing white or red will usually do a lot better than somebody wearing black or purple or blue. Well, what are the colors? From what I understand, the Chiefs are going to be wearing white. See? And the Eagles are going to be wearing green. So now we're looking at the numbers game. We're looking at the injuries. And a little snippet on the white. In the last, I think, 58 Super Bowls, Lombardi Trophy winners wore white jerseys 65% of the time. According to WTSP, in the last 17 Super Bowls up to 2021, teams wearing white jerseys were 13-4. Chiefs won in 2023, and they were wearing white. So unless somebody gets a groin injury or there's any difference in their uniform colors or any more significant injuries, it looks like it's going to be a Chiefs win. Now, I get it. I love Saquon Barkley. I think the Eagles deserve to win. I think the Eagles are fantastic. I like the Eagles. I mean, the Chiefs have been up there. If anybody deserves to win, I think the public is really going to want to see an Eagles win. But I got to tell you, the numbers don't lie. This is a very, very heavily predicted Chiefs win, not by the sports books, but by this. Now, mind you, somebody could hurt their groin on the first drive. And you got, by the way, a lot of these sports books allow you to bet, and you used to have to bet before the game. Now there's some sports books that allow you to bet middle game. So, watch. If anybody hurts themselves down there, that could be an issue. But right now, the Chiefs, 1-877 Doc Daliah. Don't go away.
Imprisonment, forced labor, permanent separation from my family, perhaps death. I knew what could happen to people who were caught trying to defect, but the watchtowers stood yards away. The possibility of a new life in a different world, one without tyranny, was within sight. The West. I thought of the rewards no longer crushed under the boot of communism. I would work and make money, no longer restrained by the chains of collectivism. I would say what I wanted, without fear of spies and informants nearby. I would be free.
Get Defector, a true story of tyranny, liberty, and purpose. A thrilling page-turner that will remind you how precious yet vulnerable freedom is. Available at shopjbs.org or Amazon.
All right. We are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Daliah, 1-877 DOCDALI. So as of Thursday was the original deadline for you as a federal worker to decide if you're going to stay or go. And tell the federal government to take this job and shove it if you don't want to return back to work. You're getting salary. You're getting benefits. But if you got to go home 5 years ago and you don't want to come back into the office, the government was going to buy you out. Let you still be on the payroll, even if you don't work till September 30th. So how many people have so far jumped on that? 60,000 employees. And rising. Now, a U.S. judge temporarily blocked the Trump administration proposed buyout, but they blocked it only at least until Monday. This gave labor unions a little bit of time. Labor unions are trying to sue to stop it. But 60,000 federal employees have already taken the deal. The ruling by U.S. District Judge George O'Toole, according to Reuters in Boston, pushes back the midnight deadline set by the Trump administration, which happened last night, and I guess extended it to Monday. He wants to delay it further or block it on a permanent basis. But there's going to be a legal challenge. Now, some of you will say, how the hell can this even make it to the courts? You have a job, you go to work. Whoever's not going to work and staying home isn't coming to work. It would be a slam dunk. Well, labor unions very quickly incorporated at-home and telehealth work into their deals. So if there's a contract between the federal government and workers who get to work from home, that could be legally binding. But for other individuals who aren't union, they're taking the deal. Now, interestingly, you have other people upset with this who don't know if they're going to get canned because of some of the changes that are going to be happening. Like the Department of Education, it's going to have a major overhaul, if not closed down completely. So those thousands of workers were probably thinking, well, wait a second, should I then take the deal? Because what if I don't take the deal and I get fired in March, then I don't get paid till September 30th. Oh, 7 months of pay, full pay for no work, and then being able to collect unemployment is kind of a nice buyout. It's basically a pretty nice severance. So you have other workers going, well, wait a second, if I'm going to get fired anyway, maybe I should jump on this. And there has been some confusion. and some anxiety about it. And so could Trump have handled it better? I don't know. Trump has very little time in the White House, being able to do what he wants to do. And he wants to make sure that whoever is working for the government is the best of the best. And sadly, and I saw this too, working for the government, there's a lot of slack. There are some workers who are busting their butts. But you have a lot of individuals who don't. And the stereotype that federal workers have is you can't get fired. It's really hard to get fired. In fact, there's some jokes within certain departments that you get promoted. If you're bad at your job, because they can't fire you, it's so hard to fire a federal worker, they will promote you just to get you out of that department. Okay, that's a problem. We need people who want to be there. Now, I understand telework. I get to do that now as a physician. It's fantastic. But I got to tell you, I'm putting in the hours. And I think there's a lot of remote workers putting in the hours. And I understand if you have a family member you need to care for, it's really hard to be in an office for 8-9 hours plus commute. If you have kids to care for, I get that. But Trump is giving you a choice. You either come back to the office and work, or this isn't the job for you. The job requires people on site. So we can ensure the work is getting done and we can ensure that, good outcomes. And so it's a nice buyout. Most people just get 2 weeks severance. So to get a 7-month severance is kind of nice. And 60,000 people jumped on it. Now, the administration, from what we understand, plans to keep fewer than 300 out of the agency's worldwide total of more than 10,000. This might be the downscaling of the USAID, the U.S. Agency for International Development, which I believe is going to be reborn in a different manner. But, to keep the employees to 300 from 10,000, that's going to save a lot of money. So why is he doing this? Well, one, he wants to save money. Number two is he wants to know that whoever's working is working. Right now, he inherited a whole bunch of office buildings that are empty. You know how much that ticks the taxpayers off? They are paying for expensive New York real estate, Chicago real estate, Washington real estate, and workers aren't there because they're working from home. And they're getting good salaries, getting cost of living. Taxpayers are like, come on. They either come to work or not. And so this is one way for Trump to sift this out. Letting you decide to leave your job is a little easier than just firing everybody. He's firing people, no doubt. But 60,000 people, that's going to save us a lot of money. Now, from what we understand, he's going to see who quits. And then he's going to have the departments analyze who has to be hired, what needs to be filled. Which means there might be some opportunities to work for the government. But one thing that I think a lot of us are kind of wondering is this going to happen every 4 years? Where if somebody is, shall we say, a Biden supporter, they'll get hired. Or a Trump supporter, they'll get hired. But then if a Democrat comes into office or a Republican comes into office, they're going to fire those individuals. And I don't think the day you got hired for the federal government meant necessarily you were a particular supporter of that ideology. You wanted to work for the government and you wanted a stable job. But Trump has a tall order to ensure that he's not going to have FEMA workers texting others saying, don't go to homes that have a Trump sign, or Secret Service agents that want to do them in, or FBI agents that are going to pick and choose what they decide to investigate. These are things that he has picked up on, and we've all seen, which was a shock. Honestly, that text from FEMA during the North Carolina and Florida hurricanes, are you kidding me? You're not going to provide assistance to somebody with a Trump sign? That's not what the government does. The government is here for all of us, whether you're Republican or Democrat or independent. You're American. We're also here for the non-Americans. Trump wants to limit the number of illegal non-Americans, but non-citizens. But you're here on a visa, you're a legal migrant, you're a refugee. Our government's supposed to help you without bias. And the fact that that sort of BS was happening, nobody has to reveal who they are politically for. That's private. But if you are not doing your job to the utmost precision and utmost ethics, you need to be fired immediately. We don't need half-ass workers, and we don't need biased workers. The job needs to get done. It doesn't matter who the person supports. You're going to do that for somebody who has a mezuzah on their door and is a Jew? Or somebody that has a cross or a wreath on their house? You got to be kidding me. And the fact that was picked up in our previous government? No, something has to be done. 1-877 Doc Daliah.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by right now. They'll tell you if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-910-7500. That's 800-910-7500. Call now to find out how much your case could be worth.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians, only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
Back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. So breaking news today, a small aircraft has vanished off the coast of Alaska on its way to Nome from Unalakleet. And it was a tiny Bering, it wasn't tiny, but it was a Bering Air Caravan, single engine, I believe, that took off from Unalakleet, a small community in western Alaska, on a 55-minute flight to Nome. It disappeared off flight radars at about 3:16 p.m. local time over the Norton Sound. Now, that area they call, I believe, the Alaskan Triangle. Choppy seas, frigid temperatures, winds. It's a very dangerous area for flights. And sadly, we don't know much about who was on board. I think there might have been 10 individuals on board, the pilot as well as the passengers. I'm not sure if they were all of a family or a couple families. But we're being told by Daily Mail that moments before the Bering aircraft suddenly dropped off flight radars, the pilot was speaking with air traffic control. According to reports, the pilot told air traffic control that he was entering a holding pattern while waiting for a runway to clear at Nome Airport. Now, he was waiting to land, not sure what was going on at the airport, not sure what the instructions were. And many of us have been in holding patterns, where we're flying slow and we circle but there was severe weather at the time. And the aircraft's last known coordinates were 12 miles off the coast. So the Nome Volunteer Fire Department said local authorities are increasing search coverage. Crews had trouble last night because of severe weather, and there was, from what I understand, zero visibility. But today, it's supposed to be more favorable. And obviously, this is a very, very big concern. Water is freezing. Any sort of plane going off the radar, no response. And it's obviously frightening. We do not want to assume the worst. But the Coast Guard from Kodiak was en route to return to the area with a helicopter. They have landed in Nome with another C-130. They have ground crew heading down the coast to cover more ground inland. And, for those of you in the area, who've ever been there, Alaska's amazing. A lot of cruises go up the Inside Passage, but then there are multiple parts of Alaska that we don't get to see that you need to fly into, like Nome, Anchorage. There's so many amazing cities, and the tundra and the winds and it's kind of like Siberia. And so there's a lot of tourism, a lot of fishing, a lot of commercial work that gets done up there. And unfortunately, sometimes things can happen. And many pilots understand the risks that are taken when you do fly, especially with weather. And sometimes you're flying to get out of the weather. Sometimes you're flying to, and so right now the FBI is joining the search. It's all hands on deck, the Alaska Coast Guard. And we hope that we will be able to get some information on what happened. In the meantime, an update with Reagan Airport in D.C. The FAA is reducing the number of planes that can land there per hour. While the recovery mission continues after last week's deadly midair collision between an American Airlines regional jet and an Army Black Hawk helicopter, the recovery efforts are still going on, although, from what I understand, the bodies of all 67 victims have been recovered and have been positively identified. There were 60 individuals and 4 crew members on the Alaskan Airlines Flight 5340, the American Airlines Flight 5342, 2 pilots, 2 flight attendants, as well as the 60 passengers, and the helicopter had 3 pilots on board. And so this Reagan National Airport is a very, very busy airport. And from what we understand, a memo that was obtained by Reuters and is being reported by WTOP News said arriving flights are now going to be reduced from 28 an hour to 26, and all planes share one runway at the airport. Now, for those of you that are, my husband's a pilot, for those of you involved in understanding the mechanisms of airports and all that, this is going to increase wait time. It is going to increase delays. And for now, DC Airport is going to probably be very, very congested. But they have to do this until they could figure out what the hell is going on, what the hell happened. We understand that the helicopter was at an improper elevation at the time. And the pilot and the helicopter, I believe, tried to correct, but it was too late. And so there was also a concern on tower personnel. And in terms of the numbers, I believe there were 5 on that night. 1 had left early. And I think 1 was in training. And maybe that's enough. I understand in any air traffic tower, there could be anywhere from 2 to 10. But sadly, something went wrong. And the investigators through FAA and National Transportation Safety Board, quote, expressed concern for our tower personnel on duty who have increased level of stress while also having a front row view of the accident recovery. So what's also happening is the individuals who are now in that tower, many of them feel responsible. And look, accidents, there's a lot of counseling and therapy, and there's going to be a lot of review, and there's going to have to be a protocols looked at on what could be done better. But the personnel are looking at this they are reminded of it every minute of their shift. And they have to be able to separate themselves from that and still work to handle the millions of other lives that are landing and taking off at their airport. And so they're going to slow things down a little bit for them. I don't know if this is going to be permanent or temporary. They say the airport is now an average delay of 40 minutes per travelers. Now those delays could increase to about 50 minutes. And, I get it. We do need to slow things down. I mean, if there are other airports people can fly to temporarily, I don't want Reagan National going under. I mean, they still need to be able to operate and do what they need to do. It's a very, very important. I've flown there. It's a great airport. It's just this shows that either, controllers were overwhelmed, military workers were not following protocol, or just too much traffic, until we pinpoint exactly what, and there are multiple things went wrong. The reason why you have all these checks and balances is if somebody is at the wrong altitude, if somebody is having plane malfunction, air traffic control can then still coordinate and change flights and move flights, abort landings, and so a lot went wrong. Now, are certain flights going to be canceled? Well, we don't know. We'll see what happens. But with the passage of the FAA's Reauthorization Act late last year, Congress increased the number of long-distance arrivals and departures that could fly into and out of DCA by 5 slots. Runway 119 is the busiest runway. It handles 90% of the flights in and out of the airport, but due to the shorter distance of the other runways, so it's like their biggest runway. And so from what I understand, they're going to use that as their main runway. They might close down the others just to try to simplify things and let everybody recoup. If there is an air traffic controller shortage, my guess is people that were working that night, if they didn't take leave and are still coming to work and working, they might need, some time to, regroup. This was not easy. This was very, very tragic. And for some, they may never recover. And, losing kids and Americans and individuals who didn't have to have their lives lost, everybody's going to feel guilty and feel like they took a role, which needs to be addressed with psychology and counseling. It's not your fault. That's what we have to try to tell them. But something did go wrong. A lot went wrong. 1-877-Daliah.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.